Did you know that 95% of people that lose weight regain that weight plus some within 5 years? Today, I want to chat with you about weight loss rebound. What is weight loss rebound? Why does it happen? And what can you do about it? My name is Shena, and I am a registered dietitian. And what can you do about it? Dietitian specializing in the care of persons with eating disorders and intuitive eating. So, why does weight loss rebound happen? Why does it seem like every time you go on a diet, the weight just seems to come back with a vengeance? Biologically, this is actually really simple. Your body is trying not to die. So, from a biological perspective, it sounds funny, but intentionally restricting your food is a giant red flag for your body to do something about it. Throughout the course of history, typically when food restriction was seen, it was because of a food scarcity. So the body is well adapted to compensate for this. And this is why we often see diets fail over the course of the long term and that weight to be regained and then some. Now, a lot of individuals might say, well, this diet worked. I just need to try harder at this diet. Instead of actually reflecting on the fact that most diets actually don't work. In fact, if we regain the weight that we lost, plus some within 5 years, I often joke that's actually just a longer way around to that initial result. So instead of trying harder at a diet, let's reflect on what's actually happening and what you can do instead. So, like I said, from a biological standpoint, your body hates when you try to lose weight. It does not like when you restrict those calories. And it is going to do everything that it can to try to compensate for that intentional starvation. So, the first thing that it's going to do is decrease what is called your TEE or total energy expenditure. So, this is the amount of energy that is required to digest food. In fact, we see a decrease in our total energy expenditure by 15% for every 10% of weight loss. That's pretty substantial. So, when we're restricting our calories, over exercising, essentially creating deprivation in the body jumps into action right away to decrease that TEE. Now, you might say, I've seen success with weight loss in the past. And you might have noticed that when you first began dieting, you lost weight very quickly. And maybe that weight stayed off a little bit longer than your future attempts at weight loss. So many individuals find themselves continually seeking that initial weight loss that they had the very first time that they dieted and thinking that they're just doing something wrong by not dieting correctly in these substantial bouts of dieting. But in fact, it's exactly the opposite. The reason why sometimes we see substantial weight loss in those initial years of dieting is because the body hasn't gotten quick enough at identifying that it's actually starving. So when we have substantial bouts of dieting, our body knows what's going on. It's like, I am malnourished and I'm going to decrease this TE as quickly as possible because I've been here before and I've already got all of the practice at this. So, this is why we often see each substantial bout of dieting resulting in less weight loss and requiring more restriction to ultimately produce any weight loss. Pretty much every organ in the body is going to be adjusted. Some of the first things that we're going to see are shifts in our salivary amylase, which is the enzyme that is responsible for creating salivation in the mouth to prepare you for food. And often we see this in response to food being available or even thinking about food. So the body's going to pump salivary amylase into overdrive to make you want more food. Another thing that the body's going to do, first and foremost, is create a surge of what's called neuropeptide Y. And neuropeptide Y increases our craving for foods like carbohydrates. Have you ever noticed that if you're on a diet, your cravings for sugar, breads, or other carbs often skyrocket? Well, this is as a result of that neuropeptide Y being increased. So, these are the first two defensive mechanisms that the body's going to do to try to help you consume more food. The body is then going to try to compensate for that reduced food intake by changing the thyroid. Yes, we are going to see decreased thyroid stimulating hormone when we have decreased our calories, especially over time. And we actually might even see this on lab values. Decreasing the thyroid stimulating hormone is going to help the body decrease that total energy expenditure even further. We're also going to see a shift in our digestive hormones. So, things like ghrelin, which are responsible for hunger, and leptin, which are responsible for fullness, are going to be altered so that we are hungrier more often because more ghrelin is being produced, and we don't get full as quickly because less leptin is being produced. So, again, this is our body fighting against us intentionally restricting food. We also see brain changes. Our brain is actually going to increase our reward response. So when food is available, it's going to feel even more satisfying, and we're going to have an even greater urgency to consume that food. So these are just a few reasons that if you're dieting, especially chronic dieting or dieting over a long period of time, we may see some initial weight loss, but at some point that weight loss is going to slow down. And over time, we are ultimately going to see a reduction in our metabolic rate, which can be very frustrating and, like I'd mentioned, result in that long term weight gain. And we're going to ultimately see us resume to that weight before we started our diet and potentially even see additional weight since our metabolism is now slowed down. So, because of these factors, I never encourage dieting, intentional food restriction, creating food rules or regulations, intermittent fasting, or any of that junk. Instead, try to listen to your body and what it's telling you that it needs. Try to really honor those hunger and fullness cues and really get in touch with those by checking in with your body throughout the day, throughout the meal, and as you're doing certain physical activities. I hope this information was helpful for you. If you loved this video, please consider liking and subscribing and share it with a friend.